Have you ever felt like you love too much, understand too much, and that's why you end up alone? That you seem to see the world with a depth that others can't reach, and that's why no one understands you? Then pay attention, because what you're about to hear will completely change the way you view love, loneliness, and even your power to attract good things into your life. Because when you understand what it truly means to be an awakened soul, everything changes. Your relationships, your decisions, your money, your peace. This video isn't just another sweet talk about love and spirituality. It's a reality check. It's about why those who truly love attract prosperity, even when they seem alone. It's about why the universe rewards those who don't sell themselves short, who don't settle for shallowness, who choose to live with purpose even if the price is loneliness. You'll understand why feeling too much isn't weakness, it's strength. Why being different isn't a punishment, it's a sign that you're ready for a new level of awareness and abundance. What you're about to hear will make you rethink everything, your relationships, your losses, and even the way money and opportunities flow in your life. Stay until the end, because you'll discover how to transform this loneliness into power, and that power into real prosperity. Because when you understand what awakened souls already know, the world begins to serve you in ways that previously seemed impossible. Now you understand why truly loving changes everything, because those who awaken no longer live on autopilot. They live with purpose, courage, and abundance. This content has opened your eyes to something many people spend their entire lives without realizing. The power that arises when you choose to be authentic, even if it leaves you alone. So strengthen this energy now. Like and subscribe to the channel to continue receiving messages that elevate your mind and transform your life. The more people who vibrate with this consciousness, the more the universe returns in prosperity and growth. You know that moment when you start to realize you see the world differently, that shallow conversations no longer fulfill you, that crowded places tire you, and that you feel an almost physical need to be at peace, even if it means being alone. That's when awakening begins. And that's also when life changes completely. Because when you awaken, you stop living like everyone else. You begin to see what most prefer to ignore. And this, as liberating as it may seem, comes at a high price, the price of seeing what others don't. Most people live on autopilot, seeking approval, chasing things that shine on the outside, but nourish nothing on the inside. But the soul awakens. It can no longer pretend this makes sense. It senses when something is false, when a relationship is empty, when interest is forced. And because it feels so much, because it perceives so much, it ends up distancing itself. But not because it wants to, but because it no longer fits in places where everything is appearance. The problem is that this distancing is painful. You begin to realize that loving truly leaves you with a kind of loneliness that has no manual for dealing with. It's a mixture of strength and emptiness. You want to connect, but you can't connect with someone who hasn't yet learned to see. And this hurts, because the awakened soul thirsts for depth. It wants conversations that make the heart flutter. Looks that speak louder than words. Relationships that grow, not bind. But as long as the world is trapped in the game of appearances, this kind of love will seem strange, exaggerated, even impossible. And then comes the first great test. Remaining true in a world that rewards the superficial. This is where many people give up. They pretend not to feel so deeply, disguise themselves, adapt. But the truth is, you can't unsee what you've already seen. Once the soul awakens, there's no going back to sleep. You begin to understand that this loneliness isn't the end, it's the process. It's as if the universe places you in a period of silence to prepare you for something greater. It's a period in which you learn to be self-sufficient, but not in a cold way, in a conscious way. You learn to love without dependence, to be alone without feeling empty. And at that point, everything begins to change. Your energy shifts, your choices change, and even the type of people who approach you begins to change. It's almost as if the universe says, now you're ready for what's real. And the most interesting thing is that when you reach this level, even money starts to flow differently. Because you stop chasing things and start attracting them. Prosperity stops being a struggle and becomes a consequence of your alignment. Everything that is forced dissolves, and everything that is natural begins to happen. And you know what's most curious? People who previously called you difficult or complicated begin to admire you. because they realize that your peace, clarity, and truth are rare. But between this awakening and this transformation lies an interval, and this interval is the most challenging of all. It's the period when you're caught between two worlds, the old which no longer serves you, and the new which hasn't yet arrived. This is when fear arises, doubt strikes, and you consider returning to your comfort zone. But this is the moment when the awakened soul needs to be more steadfast. It's when you need to trust the process, even without understanding everything. And this is why many end up feeling alone, because the old world has fallen away, and the new has not yet manifested. But calm down, because it's precisely in this space between the end and the new beginning that something extraordinary happens. It's where you learn that solitude is also a portal. It's where you discover that silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. And it's there, when you stop fighting what is, that life begins to align with what you've always sought: freedom, truth, and abundance. It's at this point that you realize that awakening isn't a punishment, it's a calling to live more consciously, to choose differently, to love in a way the world doesn't yet understand, but that transforms everything it touches. Now, tell me something. Have you ever felt like you see too much, that you feel too much, understand too much, and that because of that, you end up being misunderstood? Write the word here in the comments. I woke up, so I know you're part of this group of souls who are waking up to what's real. Because the truth is, when one awakened soul recognizes another, something powerful happens. It's as if the universe smiles and says, finally another one has woken up. And the most incredible thing is that this awakening isn't just about love and loneliness, it's about everything. About your purpose, your choices, your prosperity, your energy. Because when you start to see what others don't, everything in your life starts to work differently. And it's precisely at this point that something even more profound happens. Something few have the courage to face, but which changes everything you believe about love and yourself. Have you ever noticed that the more you truly love, the more people seem to drift away? It's as if the world doesn't know how to deal with those who truly feel. And do you know why? Because most people don't love. They just desire. They desire to be loved, they desire to be accepted, they desire to be complete. But the love of an awakened soul isn't that. It's not born of lack, it's born of presence. It doesn't come from the fear of losing someone, but from the joy of seeing someone free. And that's frightening, because true love doesn't create dependence, it creates freedom. And for those who have never experienced this, it's incredibly strange. When you awaken, you understand that love has nothing to do with possession, jealousy, or control. You no longer want to imprison anyone because you've realized that love and imprisonment can never exist together. You begin to realize that love isn't about holding back. It's about allowing the other person to be who they are, even if that means going their separate ways. But the world still doesn't understand this kind of love. People want guarantees. They want eternal promises. They want someone to fill their voids. And that's exactly where true love becomes rare. Because it doesn't promise to fill, it awakens the other person to fulfill themselves. It's a mature, conscious, calm love. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it doesn't constantly demand proof. It's simple, direct, and serene. And for that very reason, many people think it's cold. But it's not cold, it's clarity. It's the peace of someone who understands that love isn't a business where you give and get. It's an expression of who you already are inside. When you love this way, you don't need to beg for attention because you've already understood that nothing real needs to be forced. True love flows. It doesn't drag anyone down. But that's where the hard part comes in. Because when you love like that, you start to bother those you still love with your ego. People call you difficult, disconnected, distant. And the strangest thing is that they love you precisely for your balance, but then judge you for not being dependent on them. You become the mirror that shows how much their love is still trapped in fear, and no one likes to see their own reflection without a filter. True love makes you free, but it also makes you different. And being different isn't always easy in a world where almost everyone is trying to be the same. This is the point at which many awakened people begin to doubt their own hearts. You think, am I wrong to love like this? Should I be colder, more detached, more normal? But no. What happens is that you've begun to understand love in a way few do. You've come to see love not as a necessity, but as a choice. You love because you want to, not because you need to. And that's exactly why your energy begins to attract different things. More conscious people, more aligned situations, even opportunities that seem like coincidences but aren't. It's the universe responding to the frequency of someone who loves without fear. When you love with awareness, money, opportunities, and even inner peace begin to arrive naturally. Because love at its core is the energy of abundance. It's the state of being lacking nothing. And those lacking nothing don't need to beg for scraps. Those who truly love live from the inside out, and everything external aligns with this. But the world still doesn't understand this logic, and that's why it considers you strange, mysterious, or too independent. But the truth is, this kind of love isn't for everyone. It's for those who have had the courage to know themselves, to face their fear of being alone, and to choose to continue loving anyway. True love is the most rebellious and powerful act there is, because it's a love that doesn't depend on anything. It's the love that liberates, and therefore, it's the love that transforms everything it touches. Now tell me something. Have you ever loved someone so truly that you ended up alone? Have you ever felt like you gave everything, and yet life left you with only yourself? Write your words in the comments below. True, so I know you. Understand what it means to truly love. Because those who truly love don't lose, they only learn. And it is at this point that the most profound change of all begins, the one that separates those who love out of need from those who love out of conscience. And it is also at this point that loneliness ceases to be pain and begins to transform into something entirely different. It's funny how loneliness scares so many people, isn't it? Most run from it as if it were a sentence, but those who awaken begin to understand that it is, in fact, a process. When you begin to see things more consciously, you inevitably distance yourself from those who still live in illusion, not because you want to be alone, but because your heart no longer fits into shallow conversations, nor in relationships where everything is exchange and demands. Loneliness arrives not as a punishment, but as a natural consequence of awakening. It's the moment when the universe separates you from the noise to teach you to listen to what truly matters. Your own truth. At first, this silence is heavy. You miss the distractions, the people, the old routine. You want to go back, blend in again, pretend nothing has changed. But when you try, something inside you screams that it's no longer possible, that the emptiness you feel isn't a lack of others, it's a lack of yourself. The awakened soul understands this in a painful but liberating way. It realizes that being alone isn't the same as being empty. It's the beginning of a reunion. It's when you begin to realize you don't need so much to feel complete, that peace isn't found in anyone out there, but in the silence within. It's during this period that you learn the true meaning of loving your own company. You start drinking coffee alone and enjoying it, walking aimlessly and feeling accompanied by your own presence. What once felt like loneliness now feels like freedom, because you understand that you don't need to be surrounded to feel alive. Solitude becomes your temple, your refuge. It's there that you begin to truly listen to yourself without the interference of others' opinions. And the more you listen to yourself, the more you understand who you truly are. The awakened soul transforms loneliness into learning. It realizes that being alone is the moment when life invites you to rebuild yourself, to rethink what makes you happy, to discover new talents, to connect with what previously went unnoticed. Many people only find their purpose in this silence, because it's in this silence that you understand what you want to take with you and what no longer makes sense. And when you start to feel good about being alone, something magical happens. Fear disappears. You no longer need to force yourself to fit into places where you're not valued, nor beg for attention. You stop begging for love and start choosing what truly nourishes you. But this learning isn't easy. There are days when your mind tries to trick you, telling you that you're wasting your time, that no one cares, that it would be better to be with anyone than with no one. But that's when you need courage, because it's in this moment of doubt that transformation happens. The silence that once seemed suffocating begins to reveal answers the noise never let you hear. And then suddenly, everything starts to make sense. You realize you're not alone. You're being polished. The universe is removing what's false to make room for what's true. Over time, you discover that solitude has taught you to love differently. You learn to respect the timing of things, to value your own energy, to recognize your worth. And ironically, When you stop desperately searching for someone, that's when the right people start to appear. Because the energy of someone at peace is irresistible. Solitude becomes the fertile soil where true love is born. That light, conscious, and free love that doesn't come to fill you, but to walk beside you. And you know what's most beautiful about all this? It's realizing that once you learn to be okay alone, nothing scares you anymore. You understand that you can lose everything except yourself. And that's exactly where the power of awakened souls lies. They become whole. They don't need an audience, applause, or validation. They live for purpose, not approval. And that's why, even alone, they are complete. Now, tell me, have you ever felt that loneliness transformed you in a way that no one would understand? Write the word here in the comment strength, so I know you're on the same path of self-discovery and courage, because the truth is that solitude is the price of authenticity, but it's also the turning point to a life of abundance and clarity. And the most curious thing is that when the awakened soul understands the value of this silence, something even deeper begins to happen, a type of love that goes far beyond what you imagine and that completely changes the meaning of everything you have experienced up until now. There comes a time when you understand that love isn't about holding someone back, it's about allowing them to be free. It's when your heart awakens to a kind of love that doesn't suffocate, doesn't hold you back, doesn't beg to stay. It's the love that understands the timing of things, that knows nothing is permanent, and yet chooses to love with intensity and truth. That's when detachment is born, not the cold, prideful detachment of those who pretend not to care, but the conscious detachment of those who understand that love and freedom are inseparable. Awakened souls know that trying to control what's natural is the quickest way to lose what's true. So they let go, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. They understand that what needs to stay stays, and what needs to go goes, no matter how much it hurts. Mature love isn't afraid of distance because it trusts connection. It doesn't need to be together all the time to exist, because presence doesn't depend on physical proximity but on soul attunement. But this kind of love confuses many people. The world has learned to call disguised attachment, emotional possession, and the fear of loss, love. People confuse wanting the other person's best interests with needing the other person to be well, and that's why awakened souls end up being misunderstood. They're said to be cold, detached, and uncommitted, but the truth is, they surrender differently, not with their bodies, but with their consciousness. Not with demands, but with true surrender, the kind that demands nothing in return. They love silently, and that's why their love is so strong it doesn't need to be explained. When you understand this, your life changes. You stop insisting on those who don't want to stay. Stop chasing after those who don't choose you. Stop trying to convince someone to see your worth. You understand that love isn't a battle to be won. It's a dance that only works when both are in the same rhythm. And those who awaken don't force anyone else's pace. They just wait for the right time. And in the meantime, they take care of their own energy, their own peace, their own life. Because those who love themselves don't beg for presence. And you know what's interesting? When you love detachedly, prosperity begins to follow you. That's because attachment doesn't just exist in relationships. It also appears in finances, dreams, and fears. When you want to control everything, you block the flow of life. But when you let go, when you trust, things begin to align in an almost magical way. Money arrives from unexpected places, opportunities appear, the right people cross your path. It's not coincidence, it's vibration, because the energy of those who love freely is light, and everything that is light flows. Detachment teaches you that you don't need to prove anything, not to anyone, not even to yourself. True love is the kind that allows you to be who you are, without fear of being left behind, and those who understand this no longer suffer with life's ups and downs. They learn to be grateful for what remains and bless what was. It's a love that doesn't despair when something ends, because it knows that nothing is truly lost. It only changes form. This is the love that liberates, the love that heals, the love that transforms. But make no mistake, experiencing this kind of love requires courage, because loving like this is choosing to feel without guarantees. It's trusting in the invisible, believing that everything has a purpose even when it doesn't seem like it. It's looking at a departure and saying, it's okay, even with a heavy heart. And that's where the strength of the awakened lies. They don't love to have someone. They love because they know that love is the very nature of the soul. And when you reach that point, when you finally understand that detachment is the purest form of love, something inside you changes forever. You begin to feel peace where there was once despair, serenity where there was once fear. You stop seeking happily ever after and start living happily now. And that changes everything. Now tell me, have you ever experienced a love where you had to let go, even though you truly loved it? Write the word here in the comments freedom, so I know you understand the power of loving without attachment. Because when you choose to love without attachment, the universe understands that you trust it, and that's exactly when the greatest blessings begin to happen. And the most curious thing is that this light and conscious love ends up provoking something unexpected. It creates a huge contrast with common love, the one that most people still experience. And it is in this contrast that you will understand why the awakened seem to live in another world. You know that moment when you realize your way of loving doesn't seem to fit in with the rest of the world. It's as if you speak a language almost no one understands. While people seek love to fill a void, you seek it to share what overflows. While many want a relationship to feel complete, you want it to grow together, evolve, and add value. This is where the conflict between conscious love and ordinary love arises. And it's precisely at this point that awakened souls suffer the most, because the more they understand love, the harder it is to find someone on the same level of consciousness. Ordinary love is noisy. It's made of jealousy, games, demands, promises no one keeps. It's a love that thrives on expectations, comparisons, and fear of loss. Conscious love, on the other hand, is the opposite. It's silent, mature, and light. It doesn't need constant proof because it's based on trust. It doesn't depend on constant presence because it relies on real connection. But the world still values noise, and that's why those who love silently are often mistaken for those who don't feel it. People think you don't care, that you're cold, distant, but in reality, you've just learned that love doesn't need drama to be true. Those who awaken understand that love isn't about healing anyone, it's about sharing healing. And that changes everything, because when you stop looking for someone to complete you, you start attracting people who are also whole. The relationship stops being an emotional dependency and becomes a daily choice. But until you get to that point, the path is lonely, because you'll find many people wanting love, but few willing to work to sustain it. You'll deal with people who say they want something real but run away at the first sign of depth. You'll see many people frightened by your calm because they're used to chaos. And this is the biggest shock. Conscious love isn't intense in the sense of screaming, but in the sense of feeling everything clearly. It's not about living on emotion, it's about living with presence. And therefore, not everyone can handle it. Ordinary love is addictive because it comes full of ups and downs. Awakened love, on the other hand, is stable, calm, and those still trapped in the cycle of drama don't recognize it as passion. They recognize it as boredom. But true love doesn't burn, it warms. It doesn't consume, it builds. When you begin to live in this vibration, everything changes, including your relationship with prosperity. Because conscious love teaches something powerful. Abundance is a reflection of inner harmony. Those who live in internal conflict experience scarcity. Those who live in peace attract everything with ease. And awakened love is exactly that. Peace in motion. It's the energy that opens doors, clears the path, and attracts people, situations, and opportunities aligned with your frequency. But there's a price for this. And it's high because to love consciously, you need to unlearn everything the world has taught you about love. You need to let go of control, the fear of rejection, the need to be right. You need to learn to listen more, to feel more, to respect the other person's time. And this, for many, is incredibly difficult. That's why awakened souls end up alone for a while, not because no one wants them, but because few people are prepared to experience something so real. And when this understanding arrives, you begin to see love in a different light. You realize that it's not about two bodies meeting, but about two souls walking in the same direction. That love isn't about needing, but about sharing. And this realization completely changes the game. Because when you love like this, no matter what happens, you always win. You win in peace, in clarity, in strength. And even if the relationship ends, you emerge whole, not shattered. Now tell me, have you ever felt this kind of more mature love, the one that doesn't need to scream to be true? Write the word here in the comments, conscience, so I know you're part of that group of people who no longer want shallow loves. Because conscious love is what the world needs most, and what few people are ready to experience. And the most curious thing is that when you finally understand this difference, you begin to realize something even deeper, that awakened souls, even when they are alone, are never truly empty, because within them there is a source that never runs dry, and it is from this source that the beauty of loving is born, even without having anyone by your side. There comes a time when the awakened soul understands something that changes everything. It has never truly been alone, because the love it carries within is so strong, so true, that it doesn't depend on anyone to exist. It's a love that doesn't need to be reciprocated to keep pulsing. It's a force that springs from within and spreads throughout the world in gestures, attitudes, energy. And that's why even alone, awakened souls continue to love. They love the sunrise, the silence of dawn, the smell of rain, the gaze of a stranger, the smile of a child. They love life, and by loving life, they attract the best from it. But it's not just any love, it's a love that has been through the fire, that has been rejected, broken, misunderstood, and yet still chosen to keep believing. Awakened souls love fearlessly, not because they're naive, but because they know that love is the only energy that truly transforms. Love for them isn't an exchange, it's an expression. They don't say, "I love you," expecting to hear it in return. They say it because they feel it, and that kind of love is rare. In a world where everything is self-interest, where people get close out of convenience, true love is revolutionary. It's like swimming against the current. Those who love this way don't live in lack. They live in fullness, and this fullness attracts all that is good. Prosperity, opportunities, sincere people, because love is a powerful vibration, and the universe responds to the vibration you emit. When your love comes from fear, you attract confusion. But when it comes from truth, you attract harmony. Awakened souls understand this in practice. They stop chasing love and start radiating it. And what happens? Love returns, multiplied. Sometimes not in the expected way, but in much more profound ways. An unexpected reunion, a sign at the right time, a change that seemed impossible. That's why awakened souls, even alone, are complete. They don't need someone to feel love. They are love itself. And this state is what the world calls peace. Because when you understand that you lack nothing, the universe begins to give you everything. You no longer depend on those who won't stay. You no longer suffer for those who don't understand. You no longer insist on what doesn't vibrate the same way. You learn to be true to yourself, and that is the most beautiful love there is, the love that liberates, sustains, and transforms. But the most interesting thing is what happens after this understanding. When the awakened soul accepts solitude as part of the journey, it begins to see the beauty hidden in life's pauses. It realizes that each separation was a push toward maturity, that each broken heart was an invitation to look within. And it is in this deep gaze that the soul finds something the entire world seeks out there: meaning. It is there that true prosperity is born, the kind that comes not from what you have, but from who you are. When you reach this level, everything changes. Love is no longer a necessity, it's a consequence. You begin to live in harmony with life, at peace with the past, and confident in the future. And the curious thing is that when you truly no longer need anyone to feel complete, that's when the right people appear. Not because you sought them, but because you became the energy of love you always sought. Now you understand why awakened souls love differently, because those who awaken don't love to have someone, they love to be whole. This content opened your eyes to something many people spend their lives without realizing. True love begins when you learn to be self-sufficient. And that's where peace, prosperity, and the power to attract all that is true into your life are born. If this message resonated with you, like it and subscribe now, because this is how we spread this awareness and help more people awaken too. Write your message in the comments. I woke up, so I know you're part of this group that's ready to experience love in a way the world doesn't yet understand. And if you found this video powerful, wait until you see the next one. That's where you'll discover what the universe has in store for those who choose to continue loving, even alone.